Coming up on Varsity Sports, we've got the top plays and some fantastic finishes from what proved to be this season's most exciting week of high school football. We'll hear from the players and coaches who found a way to win last Friday.
And believe it or not, this week could be even better. We've got several unbeaten teams going head-to-head for some potential playoff previews. We'll let you know which teams we think will rise to the top.
It's all just ahead on Varsity Sports. And how's everybody doing? I'm Jay Elson. He's Jason and Dara, and we are going to get you primed and ready for another week of high school football. And if it's anything like last week, we're in for a doozy.
That was fun. We're halfway through the season, basically, and this week, a ton of unbeaten teams going at it head-to-head in several classes across both North and South Dakota. It's going to be like Separation Sunday on a Friday.
All right, well, we kick things off, as always, with a look back at some of last week's action, which featured a back-and-forth battle between two of the ESD's top teams and an overtime thriller in the capital city. It's all part of your Varsity Sports South Dakota Rewind. We begin in Brookings with the Bobcats played host to Brandon Valley. This was a wild one, and it started with the opening kickoff, which Dayton Bird took back 98 yards to help spark Brookings toward an early 13-0 lead. The Lakes scored the next 20 to take a 7-point advantage into the second half, and that's where it got really good. Brookings retook the lead early in the fourth on Sean High's 9-yard touchdown catch, but it didn't last long. Brandon Valley responds with 2 touchdowns in less than a minute down the stretch, sealing the win on Cole Christensen's 52-yard interception return for a touchdown, and Brandon Valley escapes Coughlin Alumni Stadium 41-34.
You can't just because you're losing a game or someone scores or makes a bad play, you can't just give up, and you got to keep battling through and through the game. You don't ever know what's going to happen. The interception, didn't know what was going to happen. It was a bad throw. Just keep your head in it.
That interception for a touchdown was huge for us, and you could see when we came back on offense that they were gassed, and we were able to run the ball with Riley, consistently almost every play, and we just kind of wore them down, and we were able to take advantage of that at the end.
Focus this week was so much better, and that's just a feeling we don't want to have again. It's hard to see everybody down like that, but everybody came back and fought hard this week.
In Sioux Falls, Washington got back into the win column with a dominating performance against Rapid City Stevens. Rasheed Benton rolled up 125 yards and 2 touchdowns on just 4 carries for the Warriors. They racked up a total of 284 on the ground. The defense, meanwhile, held Stevens to 110 yards of total offense. Washington ends its 6-game losing streak with a 47-7 win.
It was an exciting win. We got our monkey off the back a little bit. We've been pressing the last 3 games, and we're pretty excited to get a win, and now we can get rolling in the right direction and hopefully continue a good play. We threw the ball a little bit better. We ran a few plays that we've been working on that we haven't been able to put in, and tonight we wanted to work on them, and we got some success with it. So we're just happy to get the win, and then we're going to move forward here and try to work for the next one.
Top-ranked Lincoln took its show on the road for a date with Watertown. The Arrows hung tough for the first half, but the Patriots pulled away with a 21-point third quarter. Running back Braxton Large followed up his 4 touchdowns President's Bowl performance with 153 yards and 2 more scores on the ground. Lincoln improves to 4-0 with a 35-3 decision.
Watertown came out and played hard, and boy, uncharacteristically of us on the penalties. We got to clean a lot of this up, and good thing is it's fixable, but we need to clean it up, and we need to clean up in a hurry.
In the capital city, Pierre had O'Gorman on the ropes, but couldn't quite finish the job. The Govs led 17-7 in the third quarter, but they needed a Peter Sanchez field goal with 10 seconds left in regulation to force overtime. Sanchez added another field goal in overtime, but it wasn't enough. O'Gorman quarterback Luke Fritsch answered with a game-winning 5-yard touchdown, and the Knights avoid the upset 26-23.
Well, I give the kids credit. I didn't think we played a really good game today. We did have a lot of guys out. We have 5 starters out with injuries right now, and I think the guys that were in there took about a half to get going, but second half we played better and just good enough to win, and we just got to get better.
Roosevelt had an easy time in its first game without injured quarterback Taryn Christian. Jet Thune filled in admirably, tossing 3 touchdowns, 2 of them to Tyler Van Voorst, as the Rough Riders rolled to a 45-point first half and a 45-7 win over Rapid City Central.
West Central bucked tradition and aired it out on Lennox. Quarterback Jace Hanisch attempted 15 passes, completing 8 of them for 118 yards and a touchdown in his team's 49-6 win over the Orioles. Hanisch also ran for 67 yards and 2 more scores as the Trojans stay perfect in defense of their latest Class 11A title.
In Class 11B, Parkston started fast and never slowed down against Wagner. West Dvorak returned the opening kickoff 83 yards for what proved to be the game-winning score. Dvorak had finished with 4 total touchdowns in the first quarter alone, including a 40-yard pass to future Hawkeye Brady Reed. Trojans led 49-rip at the half and go on to win it by a count of 55-0. All right, Jason, we're 3 to 4 games into the season, depending on which team you're talking about. Which squads to this point have surprised you the most?
Well, I think you got to look at Douglas, what they've done. I know they haven't had the best, competition in the world, but they did beat a good Hot Springs team, even when they weren't playing their best last week. That backfield is loaded with Aaron Murphy, Colton Hitchu, and Skylar Grimm. Ever since Dan Machajchek has taken over this team in 2010, Douglas has kept improving, and they've got a legitimate chance against a team like St. Thomas More this week to pull off another win.
Yeah, and then also Madison is a team. Obviously, we weren't sure what to expect because of all the players that they lost after last season, but so far so good with the Bulldogs.
Not only did they lose so many seniors, the players they're bringing in to replace them were juniors and sophomores for the most part. There's a couple that you've heard of. Mason Hemmer has done a nice job, but a lot of young players on this team, and you look at what they've done last year compared to this year. Yeah, they beat Del Rapids both years, handled Dakota Valley for the most part, handled Sisseton. Very similar to what they did last year. Mitch Hansen and company have got a good shot to make a title run once again this year.
All right, well, they've got a big one coming up this week. And speaking of that, looking ahead to this Friday's schedule, several top 5 matchups in South Dakota. Great mid-season measuring stick for a lot of these teams. So it should be a fun week in high school football in South Dakota for sure. All right, well, what looked to be the game of the week in the EDC in North Dakota turned out to be pretty one-sided. We'll recap West Fargo's impressive performance and the rest of the action from North Dakota next.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
Grand Forks, Red River, and West Fargo faced 2 of the tougher schedules in Class AAA through the first 3 weeks of the season. And as a result, both were 1-2 coming into their matchup last Friday night in West Fargo. And that's where we begin our Varsity Sports North Dakota Rewind. We thought this was going to be the game of the night in the EDC, but it didn't turn out that way. West Fargo's defensive back Isaiah Helen Davis intercepted a pass and blocked a punt in the first quarter, both of which were turned into touchdowns, and the route was on. Quarterback Creighton Bow and running back Sam Olson notched 2 scores apiece, and the defense kept Red River in check all night. The Packers celebrate a very happy homecoming with a 37-7 win over the Rough Riders.
James Johannesson continued to rewrite the record books in Fargo South's 45-6 romp over Fargo North. The Gophers recruit gained a total of 116 yards and 3 touchdowns. He became the Bruins' all-time leader in scoring and in touchdowns. His teammate Ty Brooks was pretty good as well. Brooks ran for 113 and a score, and he also had an 85-yard kick return for a touchdown. South now improves to 4-0.
An inspired effort from West Fargo Cheyenne wasn't quite enough as the Mustangs came out on the short end of a shootout at Davies. 4 players, 2 from each team, ran for at least 100 yards in this one, but the difference was the Eagles were able to throw it a bit as well. 3 of Aiden Hartness's 6 completions went for touchdowns. Davies claims a 52-38 decision and keeps pace with Fargo South.
Grafton and Shanley have played some classics over the past few seasons, but Friday's matchup in Fargo wasn't one of them. The Deacons got 2 quick touchdowns in and never looked back. They blanked the Spoilers 42-0. Trey Fort led the way offensively for Shanley with 23 carries and 152 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Minot came out strong in its matchup with Century, with Carter Gorney scoring on the first drive of the game. The Patriots made the most of their opportunities after that. The Pats reeled off 28 straight points and beat Minot 28-19. Century improves to 2-0 in the WVA. Chris Kraft, who will be replacing the injured Dalton Feeney for the rest of the season now, was an efficient 9 of 15 passing for 167 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And finally, in the 9-man ranks, Shiloh Christian made things look easy in a 60-0 romp over Beach. The Skyhawks Shiloh Christian did it with a balanced attack. Blake Emmel rushed for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns, while A.J. Dale collected 132 total yards and 4 scores. Shiloh Christian now hosts Hettinger Scranton next Friday.
All right, Jason, to this point in the season, there have been some surprise teams, maybe some teams that came from off the radar. Who have those been for you in North Dakota?
Yeah, I got to look at what Wahpeton has done. I looked at them early in the season and didn't think they were a top 5 team. I was wrong. Carson Zarek and Blaze Irwin have been a big part of their playmaking abilities. A big win for them over Valley City, 42-18 last week. They can throw it, they can run it. They've got a good quarterback in Zarek, so watch out for them. And I also look at West Fargo Cheyenne. I mean, this is a team without any seniors on the roster. And Josh Rorick has done a nice job at quarterback. He's had an occasional interception or a fumble here and there, but for the most part, Rorick, 710 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, has also run for almost 200 yards and 5 more touchdowns. And they've got 2 or 3 guys in the backfield that can lead their team in rushing. There's some reason to have some promise for this West Fargo Cheyenne team.
Absolutely. I think they've shown, especially over the last 3 weeks, gradually that they're improving. So that's a good sign for that program.
That's for sure.
Going forward, that is so young. At this point, as you said. In South Dakota, we talked about how good the schedule is this Friday. It's awfully good in North Dakota as well.
Yeah, maybe not quite as many battles between undefeated teams, but the one we look at is Watford City and Minot Bishop Ryan, both undefeated in AA. That could be an interesting game. Cavalier, probably their toughest test of the year against North Star. North Star already has 1 loss. They're going on the road to play North Star. That's about as tough as it's going to get for the Tornadoes this year. TGU against West Hope NG. That should be a good one as well in the 9-man ranks. And then our Redeemers taking on Rugby, another battle of undefeated. 2 teams that we didn't think would be undefeated at this point in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Should be a fun week all the way around. As we said, South Dakota, North Dakota, a lot of good games to cover.
Can't wait.
Coming up this Friday night for Varsity Sports Live. And we look forward to that. Well, as we've seen already, Jason, the box scores were filled with big numbers last week. And when we come back, Janny and I are going to spotlight some of the top individual performances from North and South Dakota. That's next on Varsity Sports.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
And welcome back to Varsity Sports Now. Jason, we spent a good portion of this show talking about some of the top teams from North and South Dakota and how they fared last week, but how about the top individuals? There were some great performances last Friday night.
Well, you got to point to Howard's Luke Loudenberg, who put 7 touchdowns in on Friday. He's up to 13 touchdowns so far on the season. One of the many great performances in South Dakota. Also, Jake Como did a nice job throwing for over 200 yards and getting 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, he led that team back from an early 13-0 deficit on the road. Effective with his feet, kept things alive that way as well. Great stuff for him. In North Dakota, Trey Ford from Shanley, certainly a guy worth mentioning.
Filling in for Danny Stosh is a full-time running back, 23 carries, 152 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Great job by Ford. But look at what Carson Zarek did of Wahpeton. 14 of 20, 205 yards throwing, 3 more touchdowns on the ground, 5 total touchdowns from the Wahpeton quarterback.
That's some pretty good stuff right there. All right, well, some plays are so good, Jason, that they deserve a second look. And really, Jandy's opinion on that is the only one that matters, at least on this show. Find out if this one earned a spot on his list of Jandy-approved plays of the week when we come back.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
Well, when you get to as many games as we do, you're bound to capture some pretty incredible plays, and that was certainly the case yet again last Friday night. It's time now to share the best of the best. Here is this week's edition of Jandy Approved Plays of the Week.
We start off West Fargo Cheyenne going up against Fargo Davies late in the game. A big defensive touchdown That play was blown up by Gunnar Coleman of Fargo Davies. Look at him tackle.
Boom.
And it was Caden Steiner capitalizing for 6.
It turned out to be a pretty entertaining game.
It did, and that was a big play in the game. Speaking of big plays, though, let's go to Rashid Benton for Sioux Falls. Washington goes off the side, and nobody's going to catch him. 90 yards for the touchdown.
Yeah, it doesn't get much more efficient than the night he had. 4 carries, 125 yards, couple of touchdowns.
That's a good average. If you can
That's
keep
not
that up,
bad,
I'd give him the ball more than 4 times. Let's move now to Del Rapids on the field. Look at that.
Doink.
A doink off of somebody's head and trickles through for the PAT.
It doesn't always have to be pretty, right?
Yeah, Keegan Hemingway, nice job for Del Rapids. That's how you get the extra point. Works in that case at least. Let's move on to Brookings, Jay, where you were.
Yeah.
And we saw not 1, not 2, but 3 returns for touchdowns.
Yeah, this was crazy. Started the opening kickoff with Dayton Bird, takes it 98 yards to the touchdown. Second half, Brookings down 7, and Carter Malum picks it up and takes the field goal back, 80-plus yards for the touchdown. But the only play that really mattered was this one right here. Tie game late, and Cole Christensen makes the pick, 52 yards to the house. What a ball game. 41-34, Brandon Valley wins it.
Incredible. Now we've got a great pass by Chris Kraft, locking up for Sorrel Nagurski, who makes the catch. But that wasn't the play. Look at the stretch for the pylon to get the touchdown.
Yeah, his body's out of bounds. Nothing had hit the ground yet. He's in until he hits the ground, so he reaches for that pylon, breaks the
You
plane.
deserve that one. Now we go to overtime in Pierre, where Luke Fritsch dives in, and is he okay? Yeah, he's okay. That's the play of the week. Overtime touchdown.
The ultimate in emotional psychos right there for Luke Fritsch as O'Gorman survives in the capital city. I think Pierre gave them a little bit better game than a lot of people expected.
They do. O'Gorman's a little thin, but hey, Luke Fritsch is the type of player that gets it done in crunch time.
All right, well, Jason, as you know, picking a winner is always tough, but that will be especially true this week. Up next, Jandy and I will make our selections for 4 of this week's top matchups and let you know who we think should be on upset alert.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
And welcome back to Varsity Sports. We wrap things up tonight as we do every week with our head-to-head competition. It's our Varsity Sports Pigskin Pick'em, and so far, we've been pretty good.
The numbers look good. Jay, your upset picks have been unbelievable.
Been on a roll.
But this week, I'll tell you what, it gets tougher. All 4 of these games, I could have went either way, but we'll get right to it.
4 of the best matchups from North and South Dakota, and we're going to focus a little more on the smaller schools this week, starting with North Dakota Class AA. And Watford City at 4-0 goes to Bishop Ryan, another 4-0 team.
2 good teams. Both of them have been in my top 5 power rankings all season long in AA. I like what Bishop Ryan does on defense. I also like what Watford City does on defense, but I don't think Watford City is going to be able to put the points that they've been putting up these last couple weeks against a team like Bishop Ryan, especially on the road. Give me the Lions.
See, I think the Wolves can put up the points. They're averaging 36 a game.
Wow.
They've only given up 20 points all season defensively, so I think they can run with the Lions. I think they can go on the road and get the win. Give me Watford City.
The Wolves.
All right, in North Dakota Class A, Berthold Our Redeemer at 4-0 at Rugby 4-0. These two played a pretty good one in the regular season last year.
Yeah, it's surprising that these teams are both at undefeated records at this point in the year. Last year, Rugby got off to a good 3-1 start and kind of got derailed at this point when they lost this game. But I think they redeemed themselves against Our Redeemer, getting the win. Brad Heidelbaugh, Eric Hooker, a couple of talents on offense will be enough to get the win for Rugby.
I like Rugby as well. 4-0, despite the fact they've played 3 of their first 4 games away from home, and they've scored at least 30 in all 4 of those games. So I think all that adds up to a pretty impressive performance here. I think they knock Berthold Our Redeemer from the ranks of the unbeaten. All right, in South Dakota now, Class 11A, Madison and West Central. This was a great game last year. No reason to expect otherwise this year.
Much different teams last year, but last year the game was won on the ground. This year, I think the game might be won through the air. West Central through the air, where Jace Hanish and Cody Bussell might be hooking up for a couple big plays against that Madison defense. I think they tipped the scales just enough, getting the win at home. Give me the Trojans.
The fact that this game is in Hartford is the thing that concerns me. But with that being said, I like what Madison has done to this point. I think the Bulldogs are battle-tested. They've got wins over Del Rapids and T already this year. Plus, that win over Del Rapids was in Del.
Yeah,
I think that's a good sign for this team. Give me Madison in this game. All right, South Dakota Class 11B, Parkston at Winter.
People overlook Winter all the time. I think
do.
they might be doing it again this year. They've got 4 or 5 backs that can run the ball for the Warriors. They're not household names like you might hear Brady Reef toyed around for Parkston as a D1 recruit. Winter doesn't have that, but they do have some studs in the backfield. Nathan Galbraith back at quarterback, and a couple of big guys on defense, Isaac Nas and Crockett Krolikowski, who can get it done. And I think defensively, they're going to put the clamps down and get the win. They might score all their points on defense, too. I don't know how that's going to work, but they're going to shut them down.
Yeah, you know, their defense is good, as it usually is, but Parsons is unbelievable to this
Yeah,
point.
they've
only given
too.
up 6 points all season. Granted, some of that has been the competition that they've faced, but 3 shutouts in 4 games. West of Orak, Brady Reef, as you mentioned earlier, a couple of playmakers for this Parkston team. I think they're difference makers. I think they're the reason that Parkston goes on the road and gets past
We might not get into
Winter.
double digits in this entire
Could
game.
be.
We'll see.
Could be. All right, quickly, our upset picks of the week now.
Yankton did it a couple weeks ago against Brandon Valley. I think they come into O'Gorman and do the same thing this week, even without Levi Cabela in the backfield, who unfortunately had knee surgery for the 3rd time on his knee. It's too bad. But I think they can do it even without Levi Cabela. Give me the Bucks.
I'm going to go to the 9-man ranks, and everybody's going to look at Arlington, or it has to this point, and will probably continue after this week, as, you know, one of the premier teams in 9-man ranks. They made it to the Dome last year. They've got a whole bunch of guys back this year, including their quarterback. And, and it's homecoming, a lot playing in their favor, but this Del Rapids St. Mary team is pretty good coming in here. I think the Cardinals have what it takes with Josh Brown to get it done on the road and sneak one out
It'll be close,
in Arlington.
I think.
All right, that's going to do it for us for this week. For Jason Andera, I'm Jay Elson. Remember to tune in Friday night for another episode of Varsity Sports Live, 10:30 to 11:30, right here on Midco Sports Network. Jason will be back alongside Tom Higgins. Till then, we'll see you later.